Good afternoon, everybody. For all of those who can hear me, go ahead and type yes in chat if you can hear me. Hannah, you know the routine already. Sweet. So everybody can hear me, and I think Bill and David, we've got a couple more people we expect to be here, so we might just give it a few minutes and see if we get a few more people who show up. Jennifer, can you hear me? If you can hear me, go ahead and send me a yes in chat. Okay, I don't know if Jennifer can hear me or not, and a couple others may not be able to, but I'll just tell them to reboot if they can't hear me. Hannah will take care of you. Okay, I'm actually able to make this pretty quick, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't ask questions anytime you've got them. I'm basically going to pull up one of our report writing templates from a report that was run, and we're going to go through it. And we're going to go through the things I'd look at to actually write the report. So this class is how to save time and money on your phase one's part two. Basically, reviewing the rec check report and using ERS's free report writing template. So it's really not, I'm going to give you an overview on how to use the template, what to look for, and that kind of thing, and kind of go into a little bit, you know, on how to write a phase one. I won't go into how to interpret every single thing, but I'll go over the basics of what you're looking for. and where to put it in the report writing template. And the report writing template and the rec check report are both designed to make it quick and easy for you to write a phase one report and to cue you on all kinds of things so you don't miss anything. So it's not only so you document everything that could be a concern on the site, but you document things that are good thing, because the phase one, as much as people don't want to admit it, really becomes a legal document. You want to make sure that legal document has all the facts presented, good and bad, so it protects you down the road. Now, how good you are at interpreting aerial photos, city directories, things you read, conditions, identifying recognized conditions. I can't teach you that in an hour and a half. I've been doing this since 1984, and I still don't know it all. So I can teach as much as I can, and that brings up a good note. Anyone who's our client, if you ever have a question, a concern, something you don't understand in someone else's report, or you don't know how to interpret something, or you see something you don't know what it is, send it to me. Call me up. I'll talk with you about it. It won't cost you a dime. I will help you any way I can help you as long as you're our client. So basically, we give out for free a report writing template to our clients. So every time you order a rec check report, you can click, please provide the report writing template. And this is what you'll get. You'll get this template. It won't have your logo in it, it will have your name right here, but it won't have everything the way you could make it if you wanted to. If you take this document and put your logo in it and put in your standard answers in the places where it goes and alter some of the paragraphs and the limits and liabilities and give it back to us, we'll program that in. So when you order a rec check report and select template, you'll get your template in the form you want. You're going to do the work by making all those changes. There's no doubt about it. But we'll go ahead and do the programming to make sure those things fit in where we can. There might be a couple things we can't do easily or something, and we'll tell you. But basically, we'll program that all in. So what that'll do is save you time. Even though this is a Word document and you can cut and paste and move things around, once it's coming out in the form, in the format, with your logo, with all your stuff in it you normally want, it's great. The one thing our document doesn't require from you is your client contact name, phone number, and address. That'd be crazy. You don't want anyone having your personal client information, least of all a report writing program. And quite frankly, there's a couple competitors of ours that in their report writing program, which you've got to pay for, you have to provide that information. Well, I don't know about you, but you got to earn my trust before I trust you. So please don't give me confidential information. I don't want to be responsible for it. And giving it to other people, especially nowadays, isn't necessarily the smartest thing. I mean, if they see you're doing, 10 phase ones a week for a certain banking client, you don't think their favorite environmental firms that do a lot of business with them, they're not going to give them a tip saying, hey, we know this bank's doing a lot of phase ones. You might call them up. Be careful. That's all I got to say. It'd be nice if everybody was as honest as we were, or you are. But not everybody is. So just remember that. There's a lot of sleazy business in this world. So anyway, you're getting ready, and you want to. The best way to save time is your field assessor went out with a field checklist. We have one. We'd be glad to send you. Um, that field checklist should be all completely filled out and, if possible, already typed into this template. So it had all the information already in it. Remember, a word processor can type twice as good as most, maybe 4 times as good as most environmental professionals. You want to save time and money? Have the people do the job that they're better skilled at. There's always someone better than you to do things. Let them do the typing. A good word processor will save you lots of money and time, and you can hire them part-time and remotely. Think about that. So that's why our field checklist exactly matches our report writing template. So it all matches, it's all interactive. In addition, when you get our report writing template, and what saves you time and money is some of the rec check report or radius search report is automatically shot in, important thing. So you get a whole lot of things. And we'll go through that because they'll already be shot in this site. Remember, if at any time you have any questions, just go ahead and ask them anytime, because I'm going to try to buzz through this a little bit. So you already have your field checklist that's either typed in or it's sitting right beside you. You have the owner and site contact questionnaire or interview notes and that stuff. And hopefully that'd be nice if those were typed. You have your rec check report because you've already ordered these a few days ago, and you've got all your ducks in a row. Because when you sit down to write a report, you want all this information to make it as easy as you can for you. Gosh, my hair was all messed up. I don't know why. I didn't run around the block, really. Hey, so then you've also got your aerials, topos, city directories, fire insurance maps. Either your field assessor collected them while they were out in the field and took pictures and got all your data for you, or you ordered a package from ERS and you've got everything complete. And then you've got your files to review. Maybe you sent the site assessor because remember your preparation ahead of time was, hey, you may have decided you needed to do a file review on an adjacent site that's a Superfund site. See if there's any contamination creeping over to your site. Well, you should have the file review, paperwork, copies, all that stuff sitting in front of you and any agency contacts. And you got all this. You shouldn't sit down and write this site until you have everything in hand, including the site photos have been taken, they're labeled, they're already made, everything's together. So now you're sitting down, and the first thing I do, and remember we're going to do it, the order I do things in doesn't mean it's the order that it's comfortable for you. You should do it in the order you want. I'm trying to build a picture of this site as quickly as I can and identify all the recognized environmental conditions or any condition, even good things, that I need to note in the report as I go. So I want to start getting an overview before I start reviewing everything. So I want a good overview of this site. So the best place to get an overview of this site is usually the rec check report or radius search report. So let's look at the rec check for this site. If I'm correct, in the template, it happens to be, let me show you where it is. It should be 1 mile radius regulatory database in Appendix D. So when you get your template, your rec check report's already in there. we're going to change this a little bit. Yeah, I'm messing it all up. It should already be in there, but you can call up the bookmarks for that if you want to use it. I like using it as a separate document, whichever makes it easier for you. So let's look at the separate document for this site. And the first thing I do is I want to make sure it is the site. So that's the right APM and Rancho Cucamonga. Now to get around the rec check report is really easy. And you want to use some of the features. You check on the ribbon over here and you can get around, and these are all bookmarked. If you go to the table of content, you can click on anything in the table of contents and also get around. Now let's look at the 1 mile topographic map. Really crowded. I don't want to bother with that. There's just too much detail on here. This red site at about a 1/4 mile should be picked up. Let's see if it's in the 1/4 mile map. There it is. So it's still quite a few buildings, about a 1/2 block away from my subject site. Here's my subject site. This is a really interesting site. Right now it's vacant land. So the first thing I'm going to look at is, what the heck? This is vacant land. What's right here? Well, there's a building on my site. Well, that's interesting. Huh. Why is there a building on my site? So remember, I'm going to have a notepad, and I'm going to keep taking notes, and I'm going to start with making notes of general things, and then every time I come across something that could be its own recognized environmental condition, because remember, I'm trying to build a case in a report with facts behind every recognized environmental condition. So for every recognized environmental condition, I'm going to make separate little notes. In this case, I'm just going to note down building on site. Because there isn't a building on site right now. These buildings are here, have always been here. Right away at a glance, I can see I have green and yellow around me and red about a 1/2 block away. Well, anyone who uses our rec check report knows green is good, yellow is you need to look into it, and red is bad. Bad to the bone, remember that, bad. So when we get real crowded sites, and this isn't a real crowded site, but when we get real crowded sites, we like to zoom in more, and we do have a 1/16 of a mile zoom in on our current rec check reports now. So you can see the different things. But right now I'm looking. This is a green. Number 1's a green. I'm not too worried about 2, but I might check a little bit. 3 and 7. So I'm going to look at 2, 3, and 7, maybe even 5. 2, 3, 5, 7. Only because they're pretty much immediately adjacent, right? So all you do, it's really easy. Details 2. What is it? Worldwide Vision Lens Inc. Transfer station. Aqueous solution with metals. So it's probably some of their stuff for their tinting of their glasses and that kind of stuff. And they ship it out to get recycled. So I'm not too concerned about that. They probably don't have really, really huge equipment. Why isn't 1 a concern? Well, 1's green, so that's not going to be a concern. So 2's not a big deal to me. Let's do 3, see what it is. If you have any questions, let me know. Here's a RCRA generator. That means they dispose of hazardous materials. All other motor vehicle parts manufacturing, small quantity generator, probably low quantities oils and solvents because they dispose of, but I don't have any listing for any spills, anything. They're small quantity generator. They're probably not going to have Pro Products Inc. They're a little manufacturer. I'm not concerned of. Oh, look up here. 3, they have an oil water separator sludge. So they're also a transfer. So, I don't like oil water separators or clarifiers, or 3-stage clarifiers, or anything in the ground, because anything in the ground starts to leak. So I'm going to keep my eye open and make sure there's no other listings of any leaks. Has Swiss, that's probably just a general listing. I'm not too concerned with that. Historical vehicle parts, historic RCRA disposal, historic manufacturing, we already know that. We're getting a lot of history on that adjacent site. Machine shop, they do a little machining there. Fines isn't a big deal. Cleaners and dyers equipment, wholesale, Ultra Shield product. So they sold equipment wholesale back in '97. I'm still not seeing a listing that's giving me any information that's going to make me want to make a concern for that site. Health codes. They got an air discharge permit. Probably they got a spray painting booth. Thanks, Anna. No guy like me need to hear that once in a while. Let's see, aqueous solution with metals. We already knew that. So that's the lens place. So that's 2. So 3, 3 right now, I'm going to see if I can learn more about 3 in the city directories and anything else, and some of the aerial photos, see if there's any outside storage or steaming or that kind of thing. Because I may want to pull the file from the regulatory agency on that site and just make sure that they don't have any problems. So that's 3, because that site's immediately adjacent. And that concerns me a little bit. There's no street between us, anything like that. So I'm going to make a little note. And I'm going to go possible rec. And I'm going to put that site, number 3 map site, and address. I'm going to make a note. Because I'm going to put that into our template probably. Because remember, I review all these sites in our template. So let's go to 4, which is really across the street. But 4, they have a well. So let's see what kind of well 4 has. Production or monitoring well. What the heck? Water supply public. So it used to be a public water supply. So that's good and bad. What's good about that is if there was a problem in the groundwater in the area, this public well would have picked it up. And they would have addressed this. It also gives us total depth of completion, top of perforation, bottom of perforation. So groundwater They're using groundwater at 1,210 feet. That's huge. And it yields 3,200 gallons per minute. That's huge. Holy cow. That's a big production well. Remember, there was a lot of farming and stuff around here. And so, and I think we're going to see agriculture. So that's another sign of possible agriculture. So if agriculture can be an issue in your area, write down possible ag. This is definitely an ag well. And 5, we don't need to look at it. It's far enough away. 6 is historical trucking, printers, historical trucking and printers. So 2010, it was a printer. I don't know what K.A. Ching Records Inc. is. And trucking. But you all know trucking can be, they repair their semis, that kind of stuff. Where is 6? Is this going to be a concern to us? 6 is here across the street. Probably not, but I don't know which way groundwater flows, but I do know that groundwater is really deep here. First groundwater is probably 200 feet, 230. This is San Bernardino County area, and so it's really, 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 really deep. So I'll just make a note of that. If I find anything else on this trucking site that's going to concern me, I may pull it up. The only other one I really want to look at is 6. Starlight Logistics. So we've got trucking. Oh, it's the printer. So yeah, I want to keep my eyes open for that. 7, I don't think I really care. 7 is kind of catty corner me, but probably it may fall in this building somewhere. So let's look at 7 real quick. Remember, we're starting to build a picture of the site. So hazardous waste storage and handling, it's listed in a general database. It's a manufacturer, distributor of chemicals, gases, or solids. Express fastener distributors, historical chemical manufacturing. So I don't know what they manufactured in the way of chemicals. They didn't have any spills, any big leaks or anything, and the site is 7 feet lower than our site. Whereas 5 is the same level as my site, and 6 is 1 foot lower than the site. So I'm not too worried about 7. It's far lower. Nothing's going to run off of its site. So I'm not going to worry about that. So let me check a couple other things real quick. Who uses volatile organic chemicals in the area? Well, vapor intrusion's a big thing. And thank you, Hannah. Have a good day. So basically, the mapped air permits really not only show you the cone of dispersion or the potential cone of dispersion based on prevailing wind from NOAA, it also tells you where those air permits are. And if they have an air permit, they're handling volatile organic chemicals in a reasonable quantity. So one of the things I'd always do before I start writing is I'm going to zoom in on that, and I'm going to look at some of these and see which ones are really close to my site. So 2 and 3 are really close to my site. They have air permits. We know it's volatile organic chemical. So I'm going to look at 2 and 3, details 2. We already looked at, I think, detail 2. and that's vision lens, and they're handling volatile organic chemicals probably in their coatings of their lenses, and they have an aqueous solution. So, and they may have a little spray paint booth, just a little tiny one. So I'm not too concerned about them. But what about 3? I think 3 is right adjacent to our site. Historical manufacturing, auto parts supply manufacturing, machine shop. Yeah, they definitely have a paint spray booth. So it's probably going to say that in, and I think here it is. Here's the air permit, cam racks. So they spray paint and have a spray paint booth for their racks. And so I think this is immediately adjacent, but we should be able to find this out as we go along. Remember, we're going to look at addresses, what's there, that kind of thing, in the directories and other history. So I'm pretty sure we're going to come across that, but I'm going to make a note. Remember, painting, what's the name of this place? Cam rack. Keep these little notes because they're going to really help you as you go along. So I'm going to go to the executive summary real quick and just see if I can pick something else. Remember, a lot of this is shot in automatically. Our site isn't listed for anything. Otherwise, it'd be right here and it'd have a button for us to click through. Flood plains, no problem. Radon zones, no problem. We did expand the radius on this thing a little bit for some reason, 0.06. We've got our soil type, coarse lumbering mixed super, non-type, well-drained, consolidated, sandy, coarse sandy loam. Of course, it's in the San Joaquin Valley. Well, not San Joaquin Valley, but in the San Bernardino area where it's all sand. You know, Palm Springs is all sand. So that's it. That's all I want to look at in this rec check report. I picked up a lot of information. I'm already starting to form a picture of our site and what adjacent. Right now, it appears only adjacent sites are going to form a recognized environmental condition for my site, probably. But I don't know that. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go back to our template, and let's start answering some of these questions and show you how easy the template is to use and how it works. So the first thing is, remember, you've got your cover page. Now you know a little bit about the site. The first photo that your assessor took, you want to insert into here. It should be a photo of the front of the site, showing the sign, showing the address, showing everything. So when the reader, the person who receives this phase 1, right away knows it's their site and doesn't have to look any further to confirm they're reading the right report. Down here would be your logo, your name, and whatever you added in when you ordered the report. Little cover letter, standard. You can change this. You can do anything you want. Remember, it comes in Word, so you can cut and paste anything you want. Little summary page, project number, all that. Your project number would be there. This is a little catch-off. A lot of banks like that statement in there. You don't have to put it in there. You can cut it out. Then, here's our table of contents. Now, if you don't use any of this, it is a pain in the butt to cut them out. You can cut them out, but you don't need to. Each section cues you on something And you can always put that there wasn't a problem. We even address vapor intrusion in here as a separate item since everybody's made such a big deal about it. You don't have to address vapor intrusion separately, but we do to make sure that it's covered. And you're going to see as we go through this, everything is covered. So immediately, the site location information, so the address would automatically slip in here. And then you would put in your client name. I'm assuming you sign a contract with them. We have standard contracts, or used to. We don't do this anymore, remember. But our standard contract would be in here and contract number. So this first summary page, executive summary, findings and conclusions, I skip it. You're going to go back and fill all this in, and you're going to see how everything you fill in, you summarize in the conclusion section, and then pull the results up to the top here. So you fill this all in last, and everything you're doing is bringing you to these conclusions, and all backed by facts. All the conclusion summary is cut and pasted from the conclusions, and I think it's section 6. Let's look real quick. It's been a while since I wrote one. Yeah, section 6. All those conclusions come up front. So you don't do that right now. So the next thing you do is cite facts. Well, remember, your assessor went out and filled out a field checklist. And it's got all this information in there. In addition, your owner-operator filled out a questionnaire, and it's got all this information in it. You've got it from 2 places, so you know you've got accurate information. And if it isn't the same, then you make a couple phone calls and find out what the heck's going on, right? So you type in the owner, you type in the current use. Now, if you had a word processor and they typed in your questionnaires and typed in your field checklist, all this would already be filled out for you. But remember, you're trying to learn the building. So total existing buildings. Well, we know right now, and it's really simple, all I got to do is put a 0 in there. Or I can put a none. I think in a report, none is better. And this is what? NA. Date oldest building. NA. Number of units. None. Total units inspected. None. Specific unit. Or you can delete these sections as simple as going boom. Right? Really easy. So remember, you're learning a little bit about this height, but you've got the field questionnaire and you've got the owner-operator questionnaires that answer all these questions. Some of these end up being multiple choice. The subject building is heated or cooled by heating and air conditioning. The heating and air conditioning system obtains its fuel from what? Electrical, natural gas, unknown sources, or maybe fuel oil, or it could be electric and natural gas. Right? Mine works on both. Very easy to do. Or the subject building is not heated or cooled by heating and an air conditioning system. There's every option, and it's really easy to cut and paste and get rid of these things. So now you do the site contact, because it could be different than the owner. Who was the field assessor? Who was the report writer? If it's you, you write both your names in there. That's fine. You already got the parcel number because it happens to be the address. But it's not going to know to shoot up there, so you copy this, and you literally just paste it right in here. It's really easy to do. You do it really quick. You answer all these questions. Total number of wells, units, none, none. Data site reconnaissance. Remember, if you have a good word processor, this is already filled in and they get to know the thing. The exceptions or deletions to ASTM 1527, I don't even answer this until I'm all done. And then I select one of these things. Now, what are non-scope issues? Non-scope issues are lead-based paint, radon, asbestos coating, lead in drinking water. Either your client wanted you to address them or your client doesn't want to address them. If you're doing an FDIC or federal phase 1, you've got to address them. So you should know that. Section 2 is just totally the scope of work. This scope of work may be different than what you think it is, but this scope of work produced, I don't know, 40 or 50,000 phase 1s over 27 years and kept us out of ever getting any lawsuits. So it's a proven scope of work. Think about that. Whether you want to use it or not, I don't really care, but it complies with ASTM standard. So section 3.0, site description and reconnaissance. Remember, this is all designed to save you time and protect you. Make sure you don't miss anything. So there's going to be some redundancy in here, but it's also going to build the facts for all your recognized environmental concerns. And you'll see that as we move on further. So the subject site is surrounded by an area predominantly of, well, this is industrial commercial properties, right? Could be vacant land, vacant and industrial commercial property. On the date of the site reconnaissance, the subject site consisted of vacant land. You're done. It's easy. It's clear. Site photos, they're all with a little description in the appendix, so then you can reference the photos in other tables. There's no point in having them all described here and then look at them all. Okay? It doesn't make any sense. So at this point, I'm at the site photograph. One of the things I want to do is, remember, I'm building a vision of my site, of exactly what it is. I might as well look at the site photos real quick. And I'm not sure I've got a copy of the site photos. If I did, it'd be cool. But, oh man, I think I do. Let me look. Oh, there they are. Okay, so here's the site photos. Now remember, the assessor in the field checklist also goes out with a map of the subject site, and it marks arrows where they took the photo and the direction they took the photo and the photo number. So the photo number OP01 is going to be on a figure. Now, if I could show you one of those report writing, those field checklists with the photo, I would, but let me jump to the appendix and see if I've got it on a figure here. Oh, there they are. So in the field, he marked arrows. So the field assessor is your eyes and ears. And the better job they do, the better you can do your job. So OP01's taken straight across the south end. OP02's taken across the site. You can really see really quickly what he took a picture of. Remember this building right here, the end of this building? This is that had the volatile organic chemicals and stuff in it, and we want to know what's in this thing. So let's look real quick. Let's go back to the site photos, and oh, wholesale electric. That's interesting. And we know this one's kind of catty corner from the southeast corner to the northwest corner, and there's all those industrial buildings. But note another thing. I can't see the ground. I can't see if there's any staining because it's overgrown with 3 and 4 foot high weeds. Wow, that's something I need to note down because I've got to make sure that I'm not liable for any heavy staining on this property. And so I know where all these photos taken of the vacant land. But also, I want you to note something. See all these tree areas? That's kind of indicative of there used to be a building there and probably a residence, right? And we saw on that USGS map on the rec check that there was a building and it was a small building. And so I'm starting to think there was a building on our site. So I'm going to write down building again. I think I already did. And I'm going to try to find out what years and what it was. And that's important. So now I've looked at the site photos. And I need to get back to my report writing template. And so I've looked at all the photos. My site is vacant land. I can see that one site adjacent to me. It's right on my property line. I may have a wreck from that site because it uses volatile organic chemicals and all kinds of other things. But we've got to see from the sidewalk if there was any, staining or any storage of hazardous materials on the property line or anything like that. So the next thing is geologic and hydrologic conditions. Remember, we automatically shoot in the USGS soil survey stuff, data, and we try to get the most site-specific we can. And then a lot of people deal with fill materials or not. So we have a whole bunch of selections you can choose from. It is not known whether imported fill materials were used during the grading or development of the site. Therefore, it is unknown if fill materials are a concern for the subject site, and you're done. Or it is known that imported fill materials were used. And no sampling was taken, and therefore it's a concern. So there's a couple options here. Or you can just use nothing and skip this whole section and delete the whole thing. Remember, everything in this whole thing can be deleted. It's a Word document. It's easy to use. The elevation automatically shoots in. The groundwater in the site vicinity, usually in your local area, you know the groundwater. Sometimes people use the topography, which is really bad because it's really site-specific unless it's really steep. We do not, in our RecCheck radius search report, tell you the groundwater flow direction because 90% of the time that our competitors do that, it's based on topography, which isn't very accurate, and they don't stand behind their reports, and their reports don't have environmental insurance like ours do, and we stand behind our reports. So we're not going to give you hokey information. So you would fill in this information. Now we get to stuff that's directly out of the field checklist, but also directly relates to things that are in the standards, ASTM and all appropriate inquiry that you have to address. So were there waterways, wetlands, pits, lagoons, ponds on the subject site? And were there waterways, wetlands, pits, lagoons, ponds on the adjacent site? And you just put it in. You'll address this later if there are, where then you can put the photo that you took or your site assessor and whatever, or you can cut all that out and it becomes really easy. Remember, this saves you time writing the report. So I just cut it out and there were none and there were none. because I didn't see any ponds, waterways, or anything on this site. If at a later date I find something, I can always put that back in. According to the FEMA data, it's less than 100 years. It automatically puts it in. All you got to do is accept it. The storm water, remember, all these things are designed so it addresses every issue. So stormwater discharge across the site appears to flow multi-directionally or to the south, north, east, west, southwest, southeast, south, southeast, whatever you want to put in there. And it does or does not appear to be a source of environmental concern. I mean, if you see a trench and it's heavily stained and there's sheen on the little bit of water puddling in there and it goes off your site, you probably have a concern. And you probably should note it, and here's where you first initially note it. But write it down on your notes, because there's going to be other places where you pick it up and document it and develop a recognized environmental concern. So existing storage tanks, no evidence. So you can select no evidence, delete everything else, or you do have above ground or underground storage tanks. And remember, it can come from a field inspection, the rec check radius search report, or owner interview. Maybe the tank's gone and you put it in previously. But it gives you flexibility to answer every question. And note, you'd put it in here, put it in here, put it in here, why or why not a concern, and what the condition is. If it's none, there's no condition, fine. If it's a wreck, put wreck. If it's a historical wreck, put wreck. Because you're going to sum all these line items up. Remember, they have the photo number. So of that tank, there'll be a picture in your photo, and you got the number and the location on the map, and they can just go, your client can go ahead and go and look and see what you're talking about. You're documenting factual things. Remember to save your work on a regular basis, because if your computer crashes or something, you don't want to lose this document. Hazard storage and handling can be a big thing. If you have a lot of, 20, 30, 50 different chemicals and containers and storage areas and all kinds of things, then I lump them all up to one, list a whole bunch of photos, and if it's either good hazardous materials, good handling, or poor housekeeping, one or the other. If they have poor housekeeping, I make it a wreck. If I don't, you can make this work for you. We went on the thing, if there wasn't any containers bigger than 20 gallons, we didn't worry about it, and we never got called on that. Really, a small spill in most cases aren't going to do anything good, with the exception of a dry cleaner. So everything has multiple choice, some more than the others. This is asbestos. If the client wants asbestos, radon, lead paint, we even put sometimes grab sample results in here. Remember, a phase one does not require you, the standards do not require you to do any sampling or run separate reports for vapor intrusion or anything else. It's all done in the next step. Phase one's to identify if there is or potential for a recognized environmental concern. Polychlorinated biphenyls, we follow the standards pretty good. We look for staining around PCB containing equipment, or possibly PCB containing equipment. We don't address light ballasts. We exclude them. Just about everybody does. Clarify the sumps, trenches, industrial discharge places, automotive repair, manufacturing, a lot of places, a lot of sumps, clarifiers, trench, floor drains, industrial discharge. This is all the key you on these things. If none of them are there, you just select the first, you leave in the first paragraph, delete all the rest. If they are there, you describe them and identify the status and whether they could be a condition or not. Surface conditions. Remember, we talked about the staining toward the trench and the sheen in the trench. Man, I'd put that way. The sheen in the waterways and surface conditions right here. You're now picking them up. You got the aerial photos. It says approximate depth on the staining. If it's on dirt or something, your assessor should be taking the heel of their boot and scraping the surface and seeing if there's any depth to this thing. They don't have to find the bottom, but if it's more than 2-3 inches deep, hey, you could have a problem. Suspected substance, you know, it could look like oil, smell like oil, and you want to call it oil, but until you analyze it, you don't know for sure that it's oil. So, suspected some possible oily substance. That's about all you know. Remember that. You don't state something you don't know. If you do know, you know. Our site's all covered with vegetation, but none of it appeared to be disfigured, discolored, dying, or otherwise stressed. So it didn't give us any hint. Prior or current agricultural use, we're really not going to find that out until we look at the aerial photos. So let's go ahead and do that. So right now, probably at this point, I'd start looking at the aerial photos. And remember, I try to look at things as I'm going instead of just stopping and looking at everything because I can't remember everything. I'm an old guy. I have senior moments. So let's go to the aerial photos. And here's the aerial photos. We've got to shrink this down a little bit. Remember, when you order our aerial photos, you get as many photos and topos that we can find in 5-year increments going back to the dawn of man. We also highlight your site. These are the, I thought I had these site photos. Let's see if I have it in the report appendix. Building permit. I'm looking for a particular photo. That's why I'm kind of bouncing around here. Here we go. Here's the site photos. Everything's in the appendix already. And I just want you to note our reports, they all have either red box or the parcel map over the site, so you can really quickly review them. If these things are in a light box, they've got to all be lined up just perfectly. Otherwise, it's hard to review them, and you got to fiddle with them to get them just right and expand them and play with them and all kinds of things. Look, you just want to review these photos. There's a red box over. Here's what I got. This is, let's see. There's the red box. This is 2012. I see the adjacent sites. I see the trees on my site. All the adjacent sites very quickly. I don't see any staining on my site. I don't see any adjacent staining or anything. I could zoom in on this if I wanted to. Here I don't see anything. I'm going to start moving a little bit. Well, they're just building this site to the north. This is vacant. Northeast is kind of vacant. Wow. In 1994, it's becoming agriculture around my site. And it looks like I might have a little agriculture on my site. And there might be a little building here. So I'm picking up things. So I'm going to make a little note. Remember? 1994, building on my site. This one's supplied more just for, you can see site pretty much remain the same. You really can't make any other detail than that. So now you get to 1980. This is interesting. Pretty much it's agriculture all around my site and definitely on my site. I can't tell if there's a building there. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, see if I can see anything. Now it's starting to get a little cloudy now. So if I zoom in more, I probably won't be able to see anything. But if you look really closely right here, you got a rectangle. That's not natural. That's definitely a building. Probably a residence and probably a little barn back here. So let's go earlier. Up, we got to zoom out. Remember the photos, whether they're real clear or not, most of these photos, we didn't take any of these photos. So we get the clearest ones we can possibly get. And believe me, there's a lot that aren't clear. So there's definitely a building here, definitely agriculture. So the agriculture question we're going to map. And remember, we're going to also tell chronological history of our site. So we want to note down when this thing became agriculture, and it became agriculture in 83. Still agriculture, super agriculture, crazy, right? So let's look at the USGS maps. We're definitely 1,068 feet. There's that well adjacent across the street. Pretty interesting. It was definitely there for agricultural purposes. Pretty cool. Good stuff. If you had any groundwater flow, it's going to go to the south. Like I said, groundwater is so super deep here. I just don't see anything in the topos that are going to tell me anything. But all the way back to 1906, 1900, all the way back to 1906, 1900, my building's on the site, and it looks like a residence. So pretty cool. I'm going to go fill out some more of my my report. I don't know how come I keep clicking out of it. Sorry about that. So we filled stress in prior current agricultural use. We can definitely range it 1900 to 1983. Description, row crops, condition. Well, it depends what they're building there. Is agricultural chemicals a problem for a commercial site that's going to be fully developed and all the land's covered with either asphalt or building? No. But if it's going to be residential, yes. Or, multifamily or a daycare center or any sensitive receptor, then I'd put a rec here for agriculture. Other environmental conditions. This is a catch-all. This is where you pick up everything. Every section has a catch-all so that you don't have to write in another section. So either there is no evidence of any other environmental concern or there is. And you can put all kinds of things there, but it really makes it so this one report fits everything. Potential vapor intrusion is caught up in other environmental conditions. We spelled it out. You can go ahead and make your case for any environmental potential vapor intrusion here. And so I'd be listing that subject site. I'd be saying the RecTech database, map ID number, and I'd be making my case for the potential for vapor intrusion from the adjacent site. If I thought it was a vapor intrusion problem, you're going to have to make that judgment call and build the facts. Visual observations, just make sure you know what's to the north, south, east, west. Review of historical information. So we already reviewed the aerials. We should put that information in there. If there was any problem or any concern, we'd put the description in there and think. Otherwise, we wouldn't put any description. You don't need to describe each aerial if there's no issues. It just doesn't make sense. So you would just select, there were no environmental conditions for these years that were reviewed. And if there were, then list them below. Very clean, very nice, keeps you out of making the wrong statements and getting in trouble. Historical map review. Well, that's basically fire insurance maps, right? Sometimes we get other historical reviews and all kinds of things, but they're basically historical. We have a whole bunch of standard answers here. Let's go review the historical maps if there were any for our site. I'd be surprised if there were any for our site because basically because we're in a rural area. No, there wasn't any, and so we gave you a no coverage letter, and we now certify these, and so you're going to start getting certified ones of those. We have access to the entire complete collection of fire insurance maps, so there weren't any. So in that case, what are we going to select? Well, we're going to select none provided coverage of the area. So there were no historical maps. And we're just going to really quickly just cut the rest of this out. And that happens a lot. If you do review them and you do see problems, you put the problems in and then you sum them up at the bottom. Historical city and street directories, same thing. So let's go look at our site. So first of all, one of the things you want to make sure on is what are the addresses we're going to review. So we actually are on a corner, so we've got a cross street, right? And to get to all adjacent sites, we need to review two things. So what are the addresses? Well, the best way to find your addresses is you can go to a map. If you had a fire insurance map, you could definitely go to that because that picks up the street addresses. But our quarter mile map gives us the streets. So it's 6th Street and Hermosa Avenue. And 6th Street. So we also know the address of this facility, and we know the address of these listings. So let's go to map ID 1, and that's 922 through 9262 Hermosa. And then we've got 1096 6th Street. So we got the addresses we want to look at in city directories, and so then now we can go look at city directory. So we got city directories already back, all the way back to 49, which is pretty good for a rural site like this. Keep in mind this is a real rural site. We did, what the heck? I don't think we have the site Yeah, we've got other city directories here. Let me get these city directories. Those are weird city directories. I don't know what they are. And these are other city directories too. So unfortunately, I don't got the city directories for this particular site. We may not have done them. But basically, you look up your street, you look up your address range, and you read what's there. If it says residential, if it says a person's name, it's usually residential. If it says manufacturing plant or something like that, then it can be a concern. So let's zoom into this. I zoomed a little far, but you've got it's all residential. Here, all I see is residential. Uh, but you might find a manufacturing plant or uh, gas station or all kinds of things in city directory that you wouldn't normally find other places. And so it gives you history on your site. In this case, I don't have the directory to show you, but basically anything you found, you'd write in here. So either the city directories found something or the city directories didn't find something. And if you found something of really interesting and your site was listed, you would put all the descriptions, whether it was a condition or not, whether it's a wreck or there is none. Building department records. Remember, you've got to request the building department records. The ASTM standards say it's up to the environmental professional to determine whether they need uh, records or not. Sometimes you request them and you don't get them in time to publish the report. So then there's a paragraph here you would select. And if you did get a bunch of records, you can summarize them here. And it's really quick and easy to use. And these are all standard answers. You can change all these standard answers and make a template that you like. Remember where it says ERS is going to be filled in by your company logo. Okay, so you're getting the gist of this template and how well it works. Fire department records. Remember, we've got that adjacent site. We might want to go to a regulatory agency and look at the file on it. We know they use volatile organic chemicals and hazardous materials. And right now, I'm not convinced they're going to be a concern to our site. And the only way may be to pull their file and list it here. Sanitation records, we pretty much make sure we cover everything, even if you don't get the records in time. Stormwater quality, those for H and PDS, pipeline agency, oil and gas records or maps. Very other pertinent. So here's our catch-all. So if there's other pertinent records, anything you come across, you can put here. This report's designed to work with any type site in anywhere in the United States. Remember I told you we did review the ERS rec check report? Well, here's the basics of the stuff. If there's anything you want to identify and see, you get a quick summary. And then the key sites will be listed for you to go and say if it's a condition or not. And then you can write that in the conclusion summary section of section 6 if it's a problem, and you draw this down to the conclusions. And you can cut this. If you don't want to use all these, you want to shrink these just to 0.13 of a mile and not you can delete all these and only address the ones you want to address. There you go. So it's really easy to do. It's quick. Now I know I didn't delete these rows, but you can also delete the rows. Boom. I got to delete a lot of rows, don't I? And so that puts me back up there. So now I'm only to 0.13 of a mile from my house for the ones I'm going to address. You can shrink it even more than that just to adjacent sites. Did you do a chain of title, abstract, or review? Additional environmental documents, another catch-all. Historical site use. Remember I told you keep notes on the historical use of the site because this is where you sum it up. And everything was agriculture back as far as, I want to say 70s, early 70s. You've got to address if you have any identification of historical data gaps and why they're not a problem. So you can put that in here. You got a table. Review of title or judicial records for environmental liens or activities. If you do this, you can fill it out. If your client wants to do it themselves, that's fine. They take the liability for that. If they don't include it in their phase one and add it, then that phase one doesn't meet the standards. And so hopefully your client realizes that because they may be getting a report that unless they add that, they don't meet the standards. And there's a whole bunch of selections on that. Here's where you pick up all your interviews, regulatory agencies, owner, user, occupant. Here's the stupidest thing in the world, purchase price versus fair market value interview. I've never picked up anything here, but you have to do it. Market is spelled wrong, so make sure you correct it. And then there's a whole bunch of options. And then the conclusions and recommendations. Every section that has a rec in it gets summed up here. So you just kind of paste it into here. And then you can write comments about it. You can write a main description of the concern. So let's say you have 1 million hazardous waste containers throughout the property, different storage areas, poor housekeeping. You can sum it all up to one and sample all heavily stained or hazardous materials storage areas and do a phase one, make it a rec. And we also put total estimated cost to complete, suggested next step action. A lot of clients don't do that. A lot of people don't do that. You can just delete this row. It's really easy. You do have to put what their next step action is according to AAI and SBA now. So put that in it. Under SBA regulations, any phase one done for SBA loan, the person who commissioned the phase one must complete the actions or do the actions of what the environmental professional recommended if they want the loan. They have no choice anymore. Became law as of January 1st. So here it's recognized environmental conditions, and then you've got de minimis, historical, controlled, recognized environmental condition, you name it, you've got it. Pretty much meets every thing. This template really has made it simple. You get this free template, report writing template, whenever you order a radius search report or a pack. If you want it, you got to do a click checkbox. It comes in Word format, so it's a huge document. But we put it up on a cloud and you download it, so it's really easy. We can't email it to you. It really saves time. If you ever have any questions on anything, how to fill out anything, what I would call something, whether I'd call it a recognized concern or not, all you need to do is call me and I'll give it to you. And that's it. I hope this helped you. I hope it saves you time, money doing your phase one. I will be, in the near future, I'll be teaching a class on how to actually write a phase one, and we'll write it all the way through. do all the interpretation and end up with a phase one report. That's going to be a pretty long webinar, but I'll try to make it short. And I hope this answered all your questions. So if you have any questions, go ahead and ask. If you don't, we appreciate you attending our webinars. Thank you very much. And if you want to use the template, feel free. It's a free report writing template. It's an excellent tool, and it's proven and tried. That's about it. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope I showed you that all these things we provide you can save you time and money, make it quick for you to do it. It's not going to write your report for you. Thank you, David. If there's anyone else in your office that would like to go through any of our webinars, feel free to tell them about us. We'd love to have them, and we hope to earn your business. Bill, I hope you start using this or use this on a regular basis. I think you already use this, but we'd like to help you build your business. Remember, we will help you with landing your banks by setting them up on life alone and screening products, and the ones that have a risk level higher than low can automatically be shipped to you so you can review them and tell them what their next step action is. And it's a really good working relationship to get you more business with your bank. So, you know, if you want to do some joint marketing and sales with local banks in your areas, let me know. I have a big mouth. Thank you all, and have a great afternoon, and we'll talk to you later. Signing off.